Hi, welcome to another episode of Luncheonette with Laura Diaz. That's me, and I'm so excited to have our guest speaker here today, and that's Lauren Smith. We are going to be covering a topic that I really feel is important, and that is how to maintain a great relationship in the midst of chaos in your home when you're fostering and adopting children. So I'm really excited to bring Lauren to you today and this topic and have a discussion about that. But first, I've got a few announcements I'd like to share with you. For those of you who have been sitting back and waiting patiently for an updated training on pool and water safety, we have got it planned and scheduled for you. It is going to be May 17th at 2:30 p.m. We're going to be sending out invitations to all the CBCs to send to you. So if you don't get it, go to our website and you can register there. We'd love to have as many of you on live so you can ask our presenter. His name is Jeff Dawson. Questions and just learn a lot about the updated information about pool and water safety. So that's going to be a wonderful training, and we're going to have that posted on the website as well. Okay, second, we've got some wonderful conferences coming up that we're hoping some of you can take advantage of. First of all is the Daniel Memorial Footsteps to the Future Conference, and that's going to be May 29th through 31st, and it's going to be in sunny, hopefully not rainy, Clearwater Beach. You know, a couple months ago I said that when I was announcing it, and it was freezing. Now I'm hoping it's not raining, so one way or another we'll have weather, we know that. So it's going to be a wonderful conference, though, with wonderful speakers, so I hope to see some of you there. Okay, in addition, there is the Duffels for Kids Walk, and that's going to be in Jungle Island, Miami. That's going to be on May 18th. So we're going to post those links for those conferences here on our show so you can take a look and get more information. Last but not least, I want to take a minute to recognize all of you because this is National Foster Care Month. And I want to read a little quote to you, and it says, "A time to recognize that we each can play a part in enhancing the lives of children and youth in foster care, and we can also help to find resources and information to help ensure that their future is bright." And that's actually from the Children's Bureau, and we're going to post a link here that's going to show you some additional resources. So for all of you foster parents out there, both former foster parents who have now adopted and current foster parents, we just want to thank you here from QPI for all the hard work that you're doing and what a difference you're making in the lives of many, many children in our communities. And we really appreciate you and want to make a big, big shout out for all that you do. And now I'd like to introduce to you Lauren Smith, and we're going to have a conversation about keeping marriages strong in the midst of all the chaos we face day to day in our homes. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Glad to be here. You know, when Laura talked about doing something on relationships, I realized that it's really a similar process to what we do with the kids. And so I kind of have come up with 5 C's that help us keep relationships, marriages strong. And I just want to go over those just a little bit, and then I really want to just kind of discuss with Laura and talk about some of the questions that you may have had or sent in and what that may look like. So let me tell you the 5 C's first, and then I'll go back one by one. And they are committed, connected, communicating, calm and composed, and caring and compassionate. So let's go back to the first one. Committed. How many times do we talk about we really need to be committed to the children that are in our home? But do we forget that we've got to be committed to the people that were in that home first? And I think so many times we get so involved and wrapped up in caring for kids that we forget that we have partners, and we forget that they have needs and that they need our input as well. And it's really important to go back and say what's most important. I was thinking when I was a little girl, my dad did something routinely, and it's something that's always stuck with me. And I think probably once every 4 or 5 months, he'd sit us kids down and he would look at us and he would say, "You see this lady here? That's my wife. Long after you're grown and on your own, she's going to still be my wife, and I'm going to be with her. So I need to let you know something. You will value her. You will treat her well because she's important to me." And it might seem kind of silly, But here I am just a few years after leaving the home, and I still remember those things because it's really important. Do we have that kind of commitment in our marriages? The second thing is connected. You know, we are pouring out. We are drained by the end of every day. You know, because our kids take. They give very little, if anything, and they take. So at the end of the day, I'm done. I don't want to give anything more. I don't want to be anything more. I don't want to listen to anything more. But how are we connecting to our spouses? You know, that's important because, again, we each have independent lives and we've got to share those and connect. What are we connecting about? Is it only the kids? Because I'm hoping that we have more outside in our relationships. What are we talking about? My husband and I have a rule, and we go out to dinner as frequently as we can. We try and do a date night once a week, but I will tell you, unfortunately, with the makeup of kids that I have right now, that would mean that we'd come home to police in our driveway, so it's not as frequent as I'd like to see it. However, we go out, but our rule is this. We talk about us. We talk about our interests. We don't talk about the kids. Now, we do have scheduled times that we talk about the kids, but that's our time to connect as independent, unique individuals that were drawn to each other years ago and want to keep that strong and powerful. And so everything else gets shut out, and it's just the two of us so that we can connect. And then communication. You know, that's a little bit tough. First of all, you've got to have time. So I'm going to give you a clue. I was sitting in church and our pastor's wife spoke a couple weeks ago, and she talked about just carving time out every day that you can communicate and have the kids just go away. Well, you know and I know that might work with biological kids. But sometimes getting trauma kids or hurt kids to just go away so we can communicate is tough. So I'm going to give you something that we've done, and it might be a little outside of the box, but it works really well. I have a house full of teenagers. And so as soon as I walk in from work, it's I want, I need, can you, give me, do this, do that. And all I want to do is sit down and have a 10-minute conversation with my husband. How'd your day go? Tell him about my day. Just to kind of, you know, defrag and calm down. But they are just there. And so because they're teenagers, I have found a really effective strategy. And I walk in the door and I go, hey, baby, you want to go upstairs? And they all go, that's so gross. And they leave. They're gone. And I calmly sit down on the couch and we have our 10 minutes. And then they figured out that they can come back in. Whatever it takes, carve out the time to communicate. Again, we have crazy schedules. We're doing crazy things. There's therapy appointments, there's case management appointments, there's visits with bio families, there are school activities and homework and all the things that happen. Take a few minutes to take a breath, connect with each other, communicate with one another, and then move on. And that kind of leads into the next one, which is calm and composed. You know, a lot of you who've heard about trauma parenting and those types of things understand that we as adults have to stay regulated so the children can respond to us. And I'm going to tell you, it's the same thing with our partners. One of the things, best marriage advice I ever had was Peter Fonda of all people. But someone in an interview years ago said to him, how come you've stayed married so long? What's your key to success? And his answer was this: we both never went crazy at the same time. And I thought, you know, that's really true. And my husband and I have modeled that. So if I'm having a bad day, he stays calm and composed and he doesn't buy into my craziness. And it's hard to stay crazy when no one will dance with you. Yeah. And vice versa. If he's had a hard day, I say, can I do anything to help? And if he says no, I give him his space. I don't engage with him. You know, so many times our emotions are right on the edge because we've got so much going on and we're just looking for an excuse to bite back or snap because, again, who do we take out our frustrations on? The people that we're closest to. So I think that we've got to stay calm and composed or not go crazy at the same time. Really helps. And then finally, it's caring and compassion. You know, men and women speak different languages. We know that we're different. We operate from different foundations. Do you know what's important to your partner? Does he know what's important to you? Does she know what's important to you? Are you caring and compassionate? Do you understand what it takes? And I'll give you an example. My mom died about 17 years ago, and I was running my household. I had a really stressful baby who was drug addicted, who cried through the night. We never got any rest, and I'm trying to take care of my mom and her dying process, and I'm trying to take care of my siblings because I'm the oldest child, and I was taking care of everyone. And about 6 months later, I was able to grieve. And I looked at my husband one day, and I was so frustrated, and I said, "You've done nothing to support me. You've not been there for me. You haven't taken into consideration anything." And he looked at me shocked, and he said, "Well, I've done," and he listed about 20 things. And I had to stop and laugh because he'd done all those 20 things. Here's what was funny. Those were things that would have felt supportive to him, but didn't feel supportive to me. And so we learned a really important lesson almost 20 years ago, and that was, I needed to tell him what support felt like to me. As women, and I'll speak for women for a minute, we're really good at that. I have a need, but I'm not going to tell you what the need is. But if you don't guess what the need is, I'm going to be really angry till you figure out what the need is. And men, you're really good at, I'm going to fix everything around me, but I don't really care if they want it fixed. And so again, we learned I have to communicate what feels like support to me. And 2, he needed to ask what feels like support to you and not assume that he needed to fix it. So a lot of times we'll sit down and he's learned to just ask, do you want to just vent or do you want me to fix it? And that really helps in those relationships because we're caring and compassionate toward one another's needs. So that's kind of the framework to talk about. So Laura, I want you to jump in and...
Okay, well, I have a couple of questions. One came from a viewer, Lauren, so you touched on it, but maybe we can answer her question and elaborate a little bit more, is the whole scheduling thing and how that's affecting the family dynamics and particularly the marriage relationship and what we're talking about. But we do have all these people coming into the home, case managers, guardian ad litems, therapists, and put on top of that all the other things that we have to do with the children, school functions and everything. What's your recommendation for people so that they can make sure that they're not over committing to the children and making time maybe in their marriage for special family things and special marriage things?
That's good. I think there's a couple practical things, and then I'll go into a little deeper things. But one is every family needs a big whiteboard with a schedule, because as foster and adoptive parents, we have to learn to say no. I have 14 children. There are still 8 at home, and our life gets a little bit crazy. There have been things that we've had to learn, and part of that is to say no. So I'll give you an example. One of the things is, if you want to participate in sports, you got to do it at school, because then we're not running to different fields and different places. They're all in the same place at the same time. So again, you've got to learn to have those things. If we're out running around, how can we create and model family to these kids to bring healing? And if we're running around, we're not connecting with one another because he's off this way, I'm off this way, and we never come together. So you've got to have that scheduling board. And the first thing that has to go on the schedule is, where's our family time and where's our couple time? And we have a standard that at least 4 nights of the week we all eat together for dinner. That's our connection time. It's when everyone talks. But we also schedule in, when is our me time? When are we going to sit down? And that can be a standing daytime appointment or evening appointment, or it can be something that you schedule in on a regular basis. But you've got to get it up there where you can see it. And I'm going to tell you, you almost have to treat it like it's holy. So when you have that scheduled in, you can't touch it. And I'll tell you one of the things I've done. I have 3 girlfriends, and we meet together once a month. And we hold each other accountable to that. And we walk in and we say, okay, open up your calendars. I want to see what's on them. And we confront each other. Okay, you said you were going to have this time with your husband. Did you do it? You didn't do it. Why? And we get grilled. And it seems silly, but it really helps because it's easy to get caught into the frenetic pace of day to day. And I'm going to tell you, case managers, guardian ad litems, they add to that frenetic pace because they give us about 2.5 minutes warning that they're coming out to the home. And they throw everything. But again, it's okay to establish boundaries. Establish those in partnership, though, and understand what as a couple you're going to do. Remember, women, we like relationships, and so we like to keep people fairly happy. And so we always want to compromise and help and build that in. We get frustrated, we verbalize that to our husband, and remember, men want to fix. So they get frustrated with us because we're just so wide open and accommodating to everyone, but then we gripe to him about how irritating it is. So he's like, just knock it off. Just stop it. Just quit it. And then what happens is we end up fighting with each other, and we got to remember, we're the same team. We're the ones that have created a home environment. Let's value that so that we're not recreating trauma for the kids that we have in our home. There's nothing more healing than an intact parental relationship that brings security and predictability. And we do that by honoring each other, seeing ourselves as the team, and going forward through that.
Well, I think that's very good advice. It makes me think of a lot of times when people are just coming into foster parenting, and those initial communications that they have or discussions about taking that on. So what it's making me think is, do you think that they should have some conversations about, setting up those boundaries early on, and how would that conversation look?
Sure, I think that is important because, first of all, let me back up. You can't go into fostering if it's one person's passion and the other person's being drug along. Won't work. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was kind of the driver when we started fostering in the dark ages because we fostered for about 30 years. We no longer do. But I was the motivator to get us involved. But had my husband not bought in and been fully supportive, we never could have done what we did. And so I think it's important. You've got to know that you're doing this together. And if he's reticent, have people over to your house. Find other foster parents. Find out what it takes. Get information before you even start, because it is an energy sucker. It is very fulfilling and effective to know we're doing something for someone else, but we're giving, we're not taking. And so it's really important to know that you've got people in your life that can fill your empty cup. So start there. Then once you're new, you guys need to talk to each other about what your expectations are. What's your attitude towards bio parents? Because if you're on different pages there, that can be really frustrating, because maybe one of you is really open and they can come over and be a part of our life and do this. And again, I think we have a gender difference here. Men want to protect. Women want to create relationships. So we're much more likely as women to say, come into my home. I'll give you another example. When we first got married, I came from a very open family. Again, my parents were foster parents and adoptive parents, and so it didn't matter who came to the house. My husband, on the other hand, was from a very dysfunctional alcoholic home where you didn't invite anyone over because you never knew what would happen. So we'd been married a couple weeks. I had 2 children coming into the marriage, and I'd taken them to the park to play. And there was a family there, and their car had broken down, and they were from another state. And they said, "Can you suggest somewhere where we can walk for lunch?" I said, just jump in my van, come on over to my house, we'll have lunch. And it was the funniest thing. They were from Minnesota, but I'd gone to college in Minnesota. Ended up, we knew people in common. We had attended the same church, so there was all this cool stuff. Well, they decided to go to a park after they picked up their car, and I sent my boys off with them. And my husband came home from work, and he said, "Where are the boys?" And I said, "They're with the family I met in the park today." And he almost had a heart attack. We had to work out how could he fulfill what he perceived his role to be, which is to protect and defend, and how could he balance that with my desire to just have relationships and to know that I was a pretty good judge of people and characters. And I don't know if I do that today, but it worked 30 years ago. So again, talk, communicate, know what you're going into. Sit down once a month. Have a list of questions you ask each other. I mean, come in with a script, then there's not dead silence. How do you feel fostering's going? What would you want me to change? Here's what I'd like you to change. How can I support you better? How can you support me better? Have those questions written out so you can sit down and find out those things. That's real communication.
I agree. What would be your advice? You know, we've heard a lot of reports recently of homes closing because of divorce and marital strains. And, you know, these people have already committed to children in the home. And, you know, it's such a difficult situation. We're taking these children out of trauma situations and then sometimes putting them back into trauma situations. And I know that's not what anybody wants to do, but inevitably it sometimes happens. So what's your advice right now for that person who has children in the home but is really seeing that strain on the marriage?
I'm going to tell you, get into counseling. That's what we do with our kids. It's really important because, again, we're modeling commitment to these kids. You know, we're going to throw them back into trauma. If nothing is stable and they're up and down and there's arguing and craziness going on, remember, our kids' brains don't interpret little craziness or big craziness. It feels the same trauma-wise. And I'm not saying put on a show. I think it's awesome for kids to watch conflict resolution in a positive manner. But think about that. Not only do we owe it to ourselves in the long term of our relationship, go back and remember why you were drawn to that person in the first place, but we owe it to these kids to see something different, to see stability. See, one of the things that I am very concerned about in what we do in foster care is we think about long term of our kids, like getting them into college and making sure that they have jobs, but do we think about their success in long-term relationships? And I don't see that. And if our kids aren't modeled effective relationships and they don't see it within the family structure, that's going to make their lives 10 times more difficult. You know, many of us survived broken homes because that's just the reality of our culture. But because we had a foundation, it wasn't as impactful. But you know, it's profoundly impactful for kids who don't have that. So again, if we're a team, let's go into it as a team and let's not split these kids. We owe it to each other. We owe it to the kids to do everything possible. Get into counseling, whether it's pastoral counseling, mental health counseling, you know, marriage and family therapist. Get with someone who can give you outside guidance. Maybe find a mentoring couple. I think that's sometimes a very helpful thing. I was a marriage and family counselor for about 20 years, and let me tell you this, all relationship issues are the same. Varying degrees of intensity, but they're all the same. And so you can talk to pretty much anyone and you're going to find those key points and key recovery points with those same things. So a mentoring couple can really help. Someone who's 10, 15, 20 years farther along than you in the process that can invest.
I think so. I think a lot of times, you know, the parents, especially the mom, like you said, who's building the relationship, she's trying so hard to keep everything together, and you're always looking at the needs of everybody else that you can easily, you know, push that aside until it becomes really, you know, a very bad situation, and you know, and then it takes a lot more to bring it back. So I think, you know, the goal we have here is helping people to look at it and recognize it and make a plan to work on it. Like you said, you know, set that time aside and work on it now and day by day, and just, you know, keep your eye on the ball. You know, it's just, you know that this is something that needs attention, and I know that we tend to put all the attention on the children because they do seem so needy, and it's, hey, you know, I want, I need, take. So it's definitely an easy thing. So Lauren, do you have any other thoughts or comments or anything else? That was the end of the questions that had come in from viewers. Don't forget to send in your questions, guys. But, you know, is there anything else that you'd really like to impart on our viewers that will really make a difference in their marriages and strengthening that bond, and, of course, helping them be the best foster and adoptive parents that they can be?
Well, you know, I think it's just really going back and reassessing, why'd we do this in the first place? Are we reaching our objectives? What are our objectives? And I'm hoping it's to do something as a partner with a partner that has the same goal. We're hitting the same place. It is like values and like goals that are going to keep you together. Don't forget why you started. take time to connect, treat each other with care and respect, and don't forget, taking time for yourself isn't taking away from the kids, it's giving to the kids because you're providing role modeling for them that's going to impact them well into their adulthood. So if you have questions, I want to tell you, feel free to contact me. I should have started by introducing myself, but I am...
You took the words out of my mouth because I was going to say, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, Lauren?
So I am the owner of a private adoption agency, and one of our key components is I do family coaching. So I go into homes to help families develop effective parenting strategies. And I'm going to tell you, probably 85% of the time, where we start is on that marriage relationship, because if that's not solid, we're never going to get anywhere with parenting strategies. And I see so many times that that's the root of the issue. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about doing. As I told you, my husband and I fostered for 30 years. We did infants and toddlers for the first 15 years and then delightful teenagers for the next 15 years. We have 14 permanent children, 9 of whom were adopted through the dependency system. Most of them are teenagers now, and so life is never boring. It's always interesting. But I think that I come from a perspective that we've walked it out. And I'm going to tell you, after 30 some years, I like my husband still. We have fun together. There's no one I'd rather be with. But we've had to work at it, and we've learned things along the way. And if I can be helpful in any of that, my contact information, my phone number is 813-777-0885. And my email address is lsmith@finallyhomecas.com.
And we'll post it on here so you can write it down. So that's wonderful, Lauren. Thank you so much for providing that information, and I hope you guys will reach out to her. I just want to let you know that if you've enjoyed this time with Lauren, she's a wonderful speaker, and we here at QPI are so thankful for the time that she's devoted to training foster parents and adoptive parents. And we have some other videos that she's done that are posted. So go to our video directory and you can go under presenter, look up Lauren Smith, or also under topics, they're under parenting. So there's some great videos there. So thanks again to all of you, and I hope that you found this information helpful, and I hope that it'll help you reassess your marriage relationships and how that's impacting your fostering and your adopting and your family unit is so precious. And I hope that this has been a blessing to all of you, and it has definitely been to me. So thank you, Lauren. And just want to remind you again that we are always looking for your questions for upcoming episodes. Our next episode that we're going to be doing is about effectively advocating for your children. It's how to have meaningful communication relating to the children in your home, in your case, and it's actually for all the people that are involved in it, so we can really go to court and convey what we need to convey in an effective manner. So send those questions to us at qpiflorida@usf.edu, or you can always go to our Facebook page in the search bar, look up Just in Time Training, and you will find it there. And we're always looking for, topic suggestions, your questions, and we're anxious to hear from you. Again, thanks to Lauren for this wonderful interview and conversation about marriage relationships. And also, again, a special thank you from all of us here at QPI in National Foster Care Month for all you're doing to help us in taking care of the children in our communities. We look forward to seeing you again in our next episode, and have a great week.